Welcome to another edition of Football Game Plan's Power Rankings here on the Game Plus Network. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. We are in Week 10 of the NFL season, just past the midway point, and I feel as though we're going to take this entire episode to focus on the NFL in our Power Rankings. And as always, we like to start at number 32, which the team really hasn't changed. A lot has changed, but this team at number 32 really hasn't moved one bit. The Cincinnati Bengals have to find a way to be successful offensively. That'll be their main mission, coming off of a bye week with a new starting quarterback in Ryan Finley, the rookie out of NC State. The fourth-round pick faces a tough test this week against the Baltimore Ravens and should have his number one receiver, A.J. Green, back in the fold out there on the perimeter. Right now, the Bengals are 29th in scoring offense, and that lack of offensive output keeps their defense on the field, and they are not able to close out games. Now, they've been in a position to win at least 3 to 4 games this season, but just couldn't get the job done. So we'll see if the rookie Finley can be exactly what they need to jumpstart their offensive attack. All is not well in Florham Park, as the New York Jets may have hit rock bottom, losing to the Miami Dolphins last weekend, giving them their first victory on the season. And it wasn't that they lost to the Dolphins, but it was how they did it. The gang-green offense looked lifeless, and defensively, they may have bought Ryan Fitzpatrick another season in the NFL. He looked so good throwing the football. A lot of the attention will focus on head coach Adam Gase to see if he can get this offense, and the team for that matter, turned around and playing better, if not winning, football. Now this weekend they host the Giants in a battle for New Jersey supremacy. Dolphins head coach Brian Flores was able to get his first victory as an NFL head coach last weekend against the aforementioned New York Jets, and it was just a culmination of efforts that we saw from the Dolphins over the last couple of weeks. They finally were able to bust through the door and get the victory again. This is not a bad team per se. They play hard each and every week for Coach Flores, so he is the right man for the job. They finally were able to overcome the depth issues that plagued them all season. The Dolphins got the job done and got the victory. Washington Redskins rookie quarterback Dwayne Haskins played okay in his first NFL start against the Buffalo Bills. I thought interim head coach Bill Callahan called a very conservative game plan for the rookie quarterback, only asking him to throw the ball only 22 times against a very good Bills defense. You really can't blame him, as Adrian Peterson had a ton of success running the football, and as Haskins continues to grow within his role as a starter, the offense should become much more balanced as a result. Where they have to also get better is in the secondary, and there are some question marks at both corner and safety. Now, the Atlanta Falcons are coming off of a bye, and the hope is that reshuffling the coaching staff can get this offense and his team as a whole back on the right track. Again, I think Dan Quinn is a very good coach, but he has to make sure he doesn't lose his job based on how this team plays down the stretch. So look for a lot more running, a lot more play action, and defensively, look for them to be a little bit more aggressive down the stretch. Coming off of a Monday Night Football loss against the Dallas Cowboys, I came away with the impression that the New York Giants are not a bad team per se. They just have to find that level of consistency within their game throughout the course of a full 60-minute contest. The reason being, we saw them start fast against the Dallas Cowboys on both sides of the ball, but then we started to see the turnovers once again from Daniel Jones, and defensively, the miscommunications in the secondary that gave up a big touchdown to Amari Cooper deep down the field. So the Giants do have some pieces, but right now they look like a young football team that's still trying to figure out how to win consistently in the NFL. Last week was supposed to be the week the Cleveland Browns got on this magical winning streak to turn their season around. And again, all is not lost in Believeland, because when you look at what they're going to get back this upcoming weekend, they get back Kareem Hunt, and they're going to pair him up with Nick Chubb and have one of the best 1-2 punches in the backfield. To me, that's how you get a struggling quarterback in Baker Mayfield back on the right track. You allow him to operate off play action, and therefore you're going to see more advantageous opportunities for both Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. But the running game in Cleveland will have to be first and foremost if they want to turn their season around. The same thing can be said for the Chicago Bears. They have a duo of backs that they can utilize in David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. Again, when you have a struggling quarterback like Mitch Trubisky is struggling right now, you want to take a lot of the pressure off of him. Don't ask him to throw much. Put that ball in the belly of those backs and allow those backs to lead the way. The Bears defense is playoff ready. They just need their offense to get up to speed. One thing's for sure, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a very entertaining team to watch each and every Sunday. What I like about their passing game is that it's consistent. They can beat you on both ends of the perimeter. Mike Evans is a tremendous deep threat, and Chris Godwin does a great job at making those contested catches. They just have to find a way to, one, stop turning the ball over with Jameis Winston, although he did play well against Seattle, but number two, find a way to get the tight ends involved. OJ Howard, Cameron Brate, whoever's going to be in line at that tight end position, find ways to get them the football and they can have success. The Denver Broncos are coming off of a very fantastic effort against the Cleveland Browns. Philip Lindsay is still playing like the guy we saw last year. What a great start for Brandon Allen, but to be honest, you have to be impressed more with the catch Courtland Sutton made and also Noah Fant finally breaking through and being what they envisioned him to be when they took him early in the first round. Now defensively, I still believe the Broncos can do a great job of applying pressure, but if this offense can stay balanced and produce like they did against the Browns, they'll be dangerous. When you watch the Arizona Cardinals, two things jump out at you immediately. Number one, this team plays very hard for their head coach Cliff Kingsbury, and two, just like the Giants, they're a young team still trying to figure out how to win, especially on the offensive side of the football. We saw them kick into gear late against San Francisco. Defensively, they were able to play very well early in the contest, even getting that goal line stop before that ill-advised timeout. But on the back end of that game, the defense could not get a stop to put the ball back in their red-hot offense's hands. So when you have a team that's playing inconsistent like that, you hope that at some point they meet in the middle and start translating those close losses into close wins. We'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Football Game Plan's Power Rankings. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW in his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, investment, retirement, security. Stewardship Credit, financial growth is in your hands. Stewardshipcredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. Let's jump back into our power rankings, starting off with number 21, the Tennessee Titans. Again, you talk about a team that is the model of inconsistency. You're talking about the Tennessee Titans. One week they look dominant, another week they look like they haven't practiced all week long. So again, the pieces are there for Tennessee to be great defensively. Offensively, you saw Ryan Tannehill's efficiency start to come back down to earth last weekend in a loss to Carolina, but they can run the football. They have good defense. They'll need Tannehill to play his best game the rest of the way to close that gap in the AFC South. And speaking of the AFC South, at number 20 are the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, it was announced earlier in the week that Nick Foles will return as the starting quarterback, taking over for Gardner Minshew, who filled in nicely while he was gone. He kept this team afloat, kept this offense on pace. Now it's time for the $50 million man to step in and bring this offense into the next portion of the season and be super productive, because they still have a chance to win the division and get into the playoffs, or at least challenge for that wild card spot at number 6. At number 19 are the Detroit Lions. I like how the Lions offense has looked throughout the course of the season. They're able to work their passing game. They work touchdown to check down really well. The running game has been absent for Detroit, which has killed a lot of what they want to do offensively. And to be honest, which has kept them from winning a couple of more games. I thought if they were able to run the football against the Oakland Raiders, they would have had a chance to win that ball game. And they still had a chance to win late in the ball game, but because of no threat on the ground, it kind of kept them out of the end zone on that last possession. But defensively, I think the Lions are playing a good enough football, I want to say, to where they can get some wins. So this is going to be a pesky team down the stretch. I think they have a chance to move up. So do the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, people talk bad about Mike Tomlin, but all this guy does is win. All he does is get the talent that he has on the roster, whether it's great talent or mediocre talent. He gets them to play competitive football for 60 minutes each and every game. This is a big reason why he has never had a losing season during his tenure as head coach. So Tomlin is getting a lot out of Mason Rudolph, who's not playing well. He got a lot out of a defense. Once they made the move for Minkah Fitzpatrick, that defense started to become really good, and now they're looking like one of the better defenses in the AFC down the back stretch of this season. So Mike Tomlin deserves a ton of credit for the job he's done coaching his football team this season. So has Anthony Lynn, who has done a great job since he's gotten there with the Chargers. We saw a guy that took over a team that was 0-4, then they went down the stretch and made things interesting in his first season. We saw them have success last season, getting into the playoffs and beating the Baltimore Ravens. This year, they started out sluggish, but now they look like they've turned a corner and are coming off of a very impressive, dominating win against the Green Bay Packers. Keep an eye on the Oakland Raiders. Right now, they're 500. They're playing good football on the offensive side. I love the balance. I love the versatility. I love the diversity within their offense. When you talk about their offensive attack, you're looking at the ground game. Rookie Josh Jacobs has been as good as advertised for this offense. I like how Derek Carr is playing. He's getting the football out of his hands quickly. He's working deeper downfield. He's finding a lot of different targets. They just need their defense, more in particular their pass rush, to step up and start to come to the party. I think they're fine on the interior, but on the edges is where they need to pick up the pace if they want to find themselves in the playoffs at the end of the season. So can the Carolina Panthers. Now, their defense is playing extremely well. They have possibly the MVP candidate and Christian McCaffrey doing great things out of the backfield as a runner and also as a receiver. You like how the receiving core has stepped up and elevated their level of play. What's going to be interesting and what people will watch for down the back end of this season is how well can Kyle Allen play the quarterback position. It has been announced that Cam Newton will be put on IR, so he's not going to play the rest of the way. They're going to need Kyle Allen to raise his level of play to match what else is going on around him on offense. What I've grown to appreciate about Carson Wentz's game is how efficient he is in getting the football to his tight ends. Again, he may not be able to hit the deep ball with consistency or even accuracy, but the fact that he's able to work the middle of the field with ease to those tight ends helps keep that passing game on pace, and quietly their run game has started to catch fire. I like what I'm seeing from Jordan Howard. I like what I'm seeing from Miles Sanders on both ends of offense. That offensive line is still one of the better offensive lines in football, and defensively, they're going to continue to get better within their back half of their defense. So the secondary, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think as long as those guys continue to play with the effort and as long as the effort is there, they'll be fine. But you like what you're seeing right now from Philadelphia. They're one game back from the Dallas Cowboys for the lead in the NFC East. The Buffalo Bills are 6-2 on the season, and you can only play who's on the schedule. You can't knock them for their schedule. They're going out there and they're stacking wins one after the other. Their defense is excellent. The run defense is a little bit suspect right now. They've been giving way to a lot of big gains on the ground, so they have to tighten up there. But their defense overall, in my opinion, is very good. They can turn the ball over. They keep you out of the end zone. They need their offense to step up and raise their level of play. More in particular, Josh Allen. He has to become an asset in the passing game, not just inside the red zone, but from the 20 to 20, they need him to be more consistent in throwing the football. If that happens, this team will blow the doors off the rest of their schedule and find themselves challenging for the top of the division in the AFC East. The Los Angeles Rams are coming off of a bye and look to get back on the right track as far as being one of the premier teams in the conference. They beat Cincinnati before their bye. Now they come out of the bye and have a very tough matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to challenge their offensive line. It's going to challenge their pass protection. It's going to challenge Jared Goff and whether or not he can beat the pressure that he's going to see coming from the edge of TJ Watt and also Bud Dupree. So this is a big game for Los Angeles. It's also a big game for Pittsburgh, and I want to see how prepared the Rams are coming off of that break and trying to right their season and make themselves back into put themselves back into the conversation of being Super Bowl contenders as opposed to just playoff participants. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. And we're back here on Football Game Plan's Power Rankings on the Game Plus Network. And as we are just outside of the top 10, the Dallas Cowboys sit at number 11. There's something about this football team that you just can't really trust moving forward. Yes, all of the pieces on the table look impressive when you look at them on paper. You're talking about their receiving core. You're talking about their tight end play, their offensive line, their quarterback, their running back. but they haven't really had those dominant performances that we saw from the Dallas Cowboys earlier in the season. If they can get back to how they played against the Philadelphia Eagles down there in Dallas, this team can not only get into the playoffs, but they can go far. When you look at the Minnesota Vikings, I love what they have at defense at every level. You talk about a team that can get pressure on a quarterback, they can stop the run, they can also do a good job in coverage on the back end. They have a hard-hitting safety in Harrison Smith. Offensively, the offensive line looks better, the running game looks better, the receiving core looks better, the tight end position has depth and talent. It's all up to Kirk Cousins to play consistent football in the biggest of games. You look at Indianapolis fighting through injuries once again, this time to the quarterback position. Now, we don't know if Jacoby Brissett will play this weekend, but we do know he will be back at some point during the season. So they're going to ask a lot of Darius Leonard and that Colts defense to step up and keep offenses out of the end zone. We saw Brian Hoyer step in against the Pittsburgh Steelers and play inspired ball, and we'll see what he can do with the full week of work. And if he can keep this offense on pace, protect the ball, and not turn it over and take sacks, they can continue to win until Brissett gets back into the lineup. The Kansas City Chiefs find themselves in an ideal situation down the back half of the season. They're going to get back their starting quarterback, the reigning MVP candidate or MVP in Patrick Mahomes, and that's going to be a great thing because you like how Matt Moore was able to hold down the fort until Mahomes came back into the lineup. The biggest revelation in what we saw when Mahomes was out of the lineup was that the defense started to play inspired football. And if that continues to happen and continues to trek in the right direction based on what we saw the last couple of weeks, then Kansas City will not only have a good defense, but they will have the great offense to match. You look at Houston going into London, coming out with a win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, putting themselves in position to take back first place in the AFC South. Now, it's going to be a dogfight down the stretch with the Indianapolis Colts, and you also can't count out those same Jacksonville Jaguars or the Tennessee Titans if they're able to get up to speed and play consistently. But you have to like the Texans' ace in the hole, and that's Deshaun Watson. As long as he continues to play at an MVP type level, the Texans will not only have a chance to win the division, but also win the Super Bowl. You talk about Green Bay, you're talking about their ground game. I think last week, and Aaron Rodgers said it best, it was a wake-up call. They needed some humble pie, but make no mistakes about it. This offense, I think, is well balanced, and if they lean on those running backs that you see right there in that photo, those are the guys that can help take this team through the playoffs. Defensively, I think they're active, they're aggressive, they are exactly what the Packers need to be one of the more formidable teams in the NFC. They are still one of the best teams in the conference. New England is coming off of a tough loss on Sunday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. This is still a very good defense. They just got punched in the mouth against a better Ravens offense. Now, offensively speaking, how will they integrate N'Keal Harry into the lineup and have him be successful on the back half of their schedule? We saw Mohamed Sanu step in and be successful right away. Can they get Harry up to speed? And now they'll have another big body wideout to work the interior, but can also play outside and help stretch this passing game even further down the field. And how about those Baltimore Ravens doing a great job from start to finish? What was impressive in that matchup against New England was that in the second half, the Ravens only had 2 possessions. That is unheard of. You don't even see that in college football with the service academy. So that just goes to show you how dominant they were up front on the offensive side of the football against that Patriots defense. Now, the challenge will be how can they continue to build on that down the stretch? Because again, we saw their offense have some inconsistencies in that second quarter against the Patriots. Can they supersede that if it happens again down the stretch? But you have to like the fact that they're playing very good football, they're playing with confidence, and they have the look of a team that wants to go far. So does the Seattle Seahawks, and they have a big test this week in conference or in division against the San Francisco 49ers. Russell Wilson by far is the top candidate to win the MVP this year. 22 touchdowns to only 1 interception on the season. That is impossible to imagine. It's unheard of. He statistically looks exactly the same way Aaron Rodgers does on paper. Russell Wilson has to start getting his respect as one of the top 3 passers in the NFL. Maybe this season, people will start to take his play very seriously. You can't knock the San Francisco 49ers for their 8-0 record. You talk about a team that's playing great defensively. They're playing with some swagger, but they're also battle-tested. You look at that last week game against the Arizona Cardinals. That was a back and forth affair where their offense had to close out the game, and that's something that we hadn't seen from San Francisco all season long. It's been all about the defense, but that offense led by Jimmy Garoppolo did a great job on third downs, converting into first downs and putting that game away. Didn't allow the Cardinals to get the football back. To me, that's the mark of a true team, a true championship caliber team, and we'll see how well that can translate into the next game as they play the aforementioned Seattle Seahawks. And the New Orleans Saints are still at number 1 in my power rankings. They're coming off of a bye, and they played the lowly Atlanta Falcons, although that game is one of the best rivalries in football, so you can toss records out of the window. But it's going to be important for the Saints in the second half of their season is how well they get better in the running game. I thought they started to do some good things in the running game before the bye, and if they can continue to build on that, that bodes well for their chances moving forward. And can a second receiver start to emerge to pair up with that young man, Michael Thomas, down the stretch run of the New Orleans Saints season? If their offense can continue to play like they're playing, I think their defense will get better down the stretch. This is a team that has the making of a Super Bowl contender in the NFC, or one that can represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of Football Game Plan's Power Rankings. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. Don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also, keep it locked here on the Game Plus Network, where tomorrow we will have our Football Game Plan NFL All 32 show, and Friday our College Football Tailgate show, both at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Check with your cable provider for channel listings. And also make sure to subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast, where you can find our NFL All 32 podcast.